Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Future of Work forum. My name's David Hanrahan. I'm a Senior Director of Go-to-Market at NTT, and I'm really excited to host you all here today for this session. I appreciate that we were hoping to have a number of you hosted in person, but great to see so many of you join and accommodate the move to a completely online event. Across the course of this morning's session, what we really want to cover is a range of different topics for you. The first key part of the event is really looking into this revolution of AI and the effect of technology like Microsoft Copilot is going to have upon our workplace experience. So we'll do a little bit of a dive into some NTT research that shows what's happening in the world of employee experience. I'll ask Mario De Silva, who's a global black belt in hybrid work from Microsoft, to join us, and he'll get to do the heavy lifting and the cool part of the day, which is to demonstrate the capabilities of the AI technology from Microsoft. Thomas Clark will join us then to look at what are the building blocks we need to put in place to be ready for this revolution, what's the technology and management and privacy structures that we need. And then between myself and Craig Whittingham, we'll look at a number of potential areas of innovation and cost saving that you can potentially use to fund the investment into this new area of innovation. And so across the course of the day, that's really our goal, the revolution of AI, where it fits, what it can do, and how we can save money to fund the investment that will be required to play in this new space. But before we get too far in today's session, I'd like to ask Nick Goonan, a First Nations man and great colleague of mine, to start us off with an introduction.
Thanks, David, and welcome everyone to the forum today. So Nick Goonin's my name. I'm an account manager based here in Brisbane. I'm a Buanditj man from southeast South Australia. A proud Buanditj man of that. And I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we're meeting today, which is in Sydney, Gadigal, for the most part, Yagara and Turrbal in Brisbane, Yugambeh, the Gold Coast, and Kulin Nation in Melbourne. Acknowledging the country we're on and pay our respects to past, present, and emerging elders. An acknowledgement of country, apart from being a respectful nod to country being essentially a deity and where we all work, live, and play. It also encourages us to engage the quorum of cooperation and community. So welcome everybody today. Thank you for joining, and I hope you get a lot out of it. Thanks, David.
Thanks, Nick. It's so like all good technology shifts, and I think that's the fundamental thing that we're looking at today, is the next major technology shift for our industry and organizations. And we're at that wonderful stage of the hype cycle where every presentation for the next 12 to 18 months is probably going to be full of AI, really from start to finish. I guess unlike a lot of other much hyped launches, and the rapidly evolving use cases, the democratization of the technology, which is really making it accessible to all, means it's more important than ever that we truly understand this technology. There's going to be clear productivity benefits. There's the capability to rapidly analyze large amounts of data, which will obviously revolutionize areas like security log analysis, for example. If we think about the Copilot that Microsoft launched for security, it's designed to help us do that log analysis very quickly, to track data leakages and generate reports and on the go. So you can see how in every different area of technology, there's going to be a place for this type of AI. I guess more importantly, there's this changing work environment. For us, that hybrid office has really started to expand the security boundary of our organisation. And for all of us over the last couple of years in particular, we're dealing with massive increases in data volume from our collaboration tools, from email, from summaries of meetings that we attended. It seems to be a complete deluge of information that we're all now expected to deal with. And so there's the need to drive better productivity and better engage with both other employees, with people that we work with the public, and with clients. And these are all areas where Microsoft Copilot fits in. Now, Copilot's really designed to be an enterprise-grade assistant technology. As an assistant technology, not a replacement technology. And it basically requires M365, either an E3 or an E5 as a foundation, an Azure AD account, and then a Zero Trust foundation to make sure that we've got the information protection capability in place, so to protect the data that we're now exposing. And today's focus is really around understanding those foundations and then the capabilities of Copilot. We want to understand its potential impact on employee experience and productivity. We're going to start by taking a moment to look at where the clear business benefits likely to lie in trying to improve employee experience. And then Mario is going to dive into that overview of Copilot and some great demonstrations of the functionality. And that's really where we'll spend the bulk of the day. As I said, Thomas is then going to step in and walk us through some of the prereqs for successful deployment and really the foundations of a Copilot environment before we look at how we can further leverage that E3 and E5 licensing that's a prerequisite for Copilot, as I said, to fund the innovation that we'd all like to see in this brave new world of AI. And at NTT this year, we've done some really significant research into the employee experience. For many of you who long known that we've released our CX report each year, looking at the customer experience space, very much call center focus. This year, we expanded that out to look at employee experience as well. And it's clear that it's become a really critical part of the business strategy. And the ROI factors that are motivating investment into this space really are the same factors that AI impacts, in particular those related to productivity, employee satisfaction, automation, and speed.
In the document and created speaker.
Here is that C-suite responses from over 1,000 people that responded to this survey really said that EX is becoming their top business priority. And 94% of them said that it's going to have a direct impact to net profit. This research showed that having a well-defined employee experience strategy is seen as absolutely key. And in fact, 81% of the respondents said that they had one. I guess the scary part is only 44% of them said that this was fully aligned with their business needs, which would, if it was, would lead to an improved hybrid and working enablement. 42% said their technology strategy is well aligned with their technology strategy is well aligned with the EX strategy. So really, we've got a lot of well-defined EX strategy, but it's not well tailored into both the technology budgets that are being made and into addressing the business needs. And this is where we see a major opportunity for most organizations, whether you're in the public sector or corporate world, to really look at this and to tie these together, because what we also found is that the top performers in terms of productivity, talent retention and acquisition, and profitability were the organizations that had these all well mapped together. So the overriding outcome of this research showed that the top performers do spend more on IT, but they're 74% more likely to be in an advanced state of digitization. And this has really showed an exponential increase then in employee satisfaction. And on top of that, these top performers, 56% more likely than the underperformers to report significant business growth due to employee experience improvements. So if I think for a moment about just how much time I spend in virtual and hybrid meetings and the frustration when that technology is not well integrated or it's cumbersome to use, and how much time is consumed writing minutes and collecting actions, replying to missed calls, etc., you can immediately see opportunities for significant improvement We can eliminate some of that hybrid work frustration we've all felt over the past couple of years. And I think it's become even more frustrating as we've moved from that predominantly virtual world during COVID to these more hybrid ways of working. And so today we hopefully show some really fantastic technology that can actually help with all of those problems. And while not wanting to spend too much time buried in research today, what I did want to call out is that when you dig a little deeper into that EX report, which we're releasing, it becomes clear that AI and cloud are the two key pillars that enable effective EX strategies to be executed. And once we execute them, it allows us to unlock that employee potential. The most successful organizations are clearly prioritizing cloud and AI. Cloud, because it's a prereq to leveraging tech like AI, and digitization, because it allows us to provide that hyper-personalization, not just for the world of CX, where it's already well established, but also in this world of employee experience, which has become, I guess, as we all know, equally as important. So building on those insights, we want to really examine how this world of AI, and particularly this release of Microsoft's Copilots, can be leveraged to try and drive some of these outcomes of improving employee experience. And not just employee experience, but also new ways of engaging with our stakeholders and clients and the public, new ways of leveraging the data that we have in our organizations, improving our process and decision making. And these are all areas where AI can have a really significant impact. Mario's demonstrations are mostly targeted at the world of productivity and collaboration, innovations that improve agility and responsiveness. But as you view these examples that we show you today, I'd like you to stop and think about how you map these out further to the multitude of scenarios that might help your own organization. Because while most of the current excitement centered around agility and productivity, a lot of the true return on investment will come from the improved decision-making and the better leverage of data. For example, at NTT, we're heavily focused on leveraging that wealth of data that we have to better improve collaboration around our managed services, building AI tools in to provide reporting in our managed collaboration services, for example, or developing RFP responders that can take validated and curated content to improve the quality of proposals and contracts that we send out to you. Just a couple of examples. And if we break down the variance of AI into a few categories, I guess the first and one of the more mature that many of us are probably already using is that around code generation. And the GitHub AI, for example, has been available for a long time, and it's the one area we're not going to cover today. But as we do break this down, the first area of natural language and process automation, using this to create content, perhaps using this to automatically create funding submissions, looking at previous submissions, using AI to bring that together, then using this initial content to develop a board-ready summary presentation, or using natural language queries to hit large amounts of data without having the traditional Excel VLOOKUP and pivot table skills, asking AI to go and do that analysis of the sales data for me. Of course, there's many ways to approach this, and we can then also start to apply semantic search for insights into that data. So not just creating minutes of a Teams meeting, but looking for the actions that came out of it, perhaps querying whether or not it was a difficult decision to arrive at, and who was perhaps resistive to that change and those types of things. So these are the different variants that we bring in. So you'll see today quite a focus around the content generation and summarization. Real-time transcription and summarization allows us to go and summarize an entire engagement with the public or a client or a meeting in real time, index those key actions that came out, and then perhaps pull in other experts to streamline the engagement, build the attendee list from the intros at the start of the call, create those meeting actions, as I said. For me, this is one of my favorite examples because when I avoid those late night global Teams meetings, I can use the Copilot to go and actually do a summary, get my actions, or perhaps jump straight forward to the point in the recording where my boss was talking, but rather than having to sit up late at night and do the whole call. And then, as I said, using semantic search to understand the emotional impact of what was happening in that meeting at the back end at the same time. So the M365 examples we're going to show with Copilot, they're all fundamentally underpinned by having your data in the cloud and having that E3 or E5 license. So after I now invite Mario to take control and perhaps give us a better example, an insight into Copilot and some demonstrations, as I said, we'll come back to that foundation of what's the value we can leverage out of that E5 licensing to drive cost savings. So I'll hand over to you, Mario.
Great. Thanks for that, David, and thanks for the opportunity. And I think looking at the number of attendees on the call itself, I think it gives you a good sense that AI is a topic of interest for a lot of our customers out there. So let me start off by introducing myself. My name is Mario De Silva. I'm a specialist at Microsoft that works in the innovative hybrid workspace and new solution areas of hybrid work that Microsoft is releasing to market. It's interesting, since we announced Copilot a little while back, 90% of my day is today talking to customers about Copilot and the level of interest around this. What I want to do today is just give you a brief grounding on M365 Copilot. And then what I want to do is probably spend 5 minutes in, maybe 5 to 7 minutes in slides, and then we'll jump into demos to show you what this looks like from a day-to-day basis for you and how you could apply this in your own organizations. But one of the things you will hear from Microsoft is Copilot, but with different solutions tagged against it. So David spoke about GitHub Copilot. Now, GitHub Copilot is created the same prompt because David's in market for quite a long time, about 12 months now. That was the first Copilot solution that we released to market. Now, to see some of the stats that are coming out of that is quite phenomenal. Today, 47% of all code generated on GitHub is AI generated. It just gives you a sense of what AI can do to help developers in that instance. And developers love it because it takes away those mundane tasks that they would have to do otherwise, which was look for basic code snippets and debugging their code and all those kind of things. A lot of those AI can help you with those processes and helps developers really apply themselves to delivering more complex outcomes that they're looking to develop from a business perspective. About a week and a half back, we announced, or 2 weeks back, we announced Windows Copilot. That's going to be built into the Windows operating system, and that will replace Cortana. So you'll have AI built into the operating system itself. But today we're going to spend a large chunk of our time talking about, or most of the time talking about, Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is the Copilot that is going to make you productive with your Office applications. So let me move forward. Some of the stats, we leave these stats there. We've already spoken about it. I don't want to spend too much time in PowerPoint here. But one of the first things I want to kind of get everyone on a level set is Microsoft has had AI in most of its products for a long time. So if I think of Teams meeting rooms, for example, you've had AI there where we can do people framing, we can do spatial audio in meeting rooms. That's all AI. It is done automatically. And you could call that autopilot, right? Because you don't have to do anything. The platform does it automatically, and the AI that's in the platform does it automatically for you. Copilot is an assistant for the person that is creating the prompts. AI will not do anything for you unless you create a prompt and you tell the AI platform to do something. And that's when it'll return an outcome for you based on the prompt you've created. At the end of the day, the end user is in control of the AI engine with Copilot in M365, and any Copilot for that matter. The way I tend to explain this to customers is think of everyone in your organization that has an M365 Copilot license having a really efficient intern, right? So this intern is going to do all the mundane tasks. You want to create a report, the intern will go source the data for you. They'll create the draft of the report. They'll get it about 80% of the way there for you. And then you finalize the report, or even 90%. And then you finalize the report, you review it, you publish it, as a piece of work that you've worked on and you've created yourself, right? And so that's the way I like to frame it, and that's the simplest way I can think of explaining what AI and Copilot's going to be and what it's going to deliver from an outcome perspective. So let me move forward. So we recently announced that Copilot in M365 is going to be available from the 1st of November. So not too far away. And I think hopefully with the demos you see today, you'll get a good sense of the productivity gains it's going to drive from a business perspective. And we've had some customers in Australia and New Zealand that are part of an early adopter program. And I won't mention names of these customers, but there is one of the CIOs up in Queensland who the easiest way I could describe him is a fanboy for M365 Copilot. And the feedback he has given us is that on average, after using Copilot for 3 weeks, it's saving him at least an hour a day. Right? So think of that. If Copilot can help you save an hour a day, that is in 3 weeks' time with basic interactions with the platform and not even doing any complex prompting. And I'll explain to you what prompts are in a second. But that's a huge productivity gain. You've just gained 5 hours a week doing that. And I would suggest that that productivity gain will increase over time as you use the platform more and you create more complex queries or prompts against AI. And that I could see that growing to saving more time. And my personal vision, this is not a Microsoft vision, I want to call that out quite loud and clear, is that Copilot is that first productivity gain tool that could possibly justify a 4-day working week, right? Personal view at least. So let's jump in, and I'll try and skip. But okay, let me cover this one slide. I want to cover off the different components of what is Copilot. Copilot is made up of a few moving parts. The biggest and most important is the AI engine, which is the large language model. So Microsoft has invested with OpenAI for quite a long time. And as part of that, Microsoft's taken ChatGPT 3.5 and 4.0 engines, the generative AI engine, and built it in our Azure platform. So this is an instance of that running within the Microsoft network. So you're not, any of the queries that you create with M365 Copilot does not hit the public ChatGPT services in any shape or form. It is within the Microsoft trust boundary and never leaves the Microsoft network. The other one you've got is the graph. So Microsoft Graph is really how you access your data that's sitting in your M365 tenant. And that applies to your OneDrive files, your SharePoint files, your Teams chats, your Exchange mailbox. You can interact with those through the Graph APIs that we make available. And as part of Copilot, what we've done as well in preparation for Copilot is we've created a new index called Semantic Index that David referred to earlier. Now, Semantic Index is a new index. Most of SharePoint Index historically has been a keyword search index. Semantic Index indexes your data, but then indexes the context and applies context of your organization to it. So let me give you an example, and I tend to give really bad examples, so I'll apologize for that up front. Let's say someone creates a prompt saying, give me the latest sales figures for the business. With a keyword search, if someone did sales figures for the business, it would return any file that had those keywords in it. With Semantic Index, what we can do is we know that Anne in accounting publishes the sales figures on a monthly basis. We know she's the authoritative source for that data, and we will make sure that her published data is first on the list of results that you get back, right? So that's where the context comes in with Semantic Index, and I think that's important as well. You've got your Microsoft 365 applications, and this is not new. That's your Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Teams, Outlook, and we've got a new capability, what we're calling Microsoft Chat. So I'll demo some of these for you as well. Okay, sorry, my machine's telling me we want to update the software and reboot. I'll tell it to do that later. And then, of course, we can also ground the data on the internet. So we will always ground it on your internal M365 tenant information first. But if someone creates a prompt saying, give me the weather report for Melbourne tomorrow, I'm guessing you don't have that data sitting on your M365 tenant. So we will go out to the internet to source that data and return that as well. So I'm going to stop over here and I'm going to start sharing my desktop and give you a sneak peek of Copilot. So let me start off with Teams since I'm here in Teams right now. So I'm going to go up over here and we've created a Project Falcon meeting earlier just so that I could use for demos with some of my colleagues. So I'm going to load that up over here. As you can see, it's a meeting that happened in the past. I can go to the recap tab over here. And what you can see on the screen right now is Teams Premium. This is not Copilot. I want to call that out. This is Teams Premium capability, which is an AI capability that is which is, let's call it autopilot, because you don't have to do anything. If you have a Teams Premium license, the platform and your meeting is recorded, you will all automatically get this interface. It'll tell you who presented in that meeting at what time. It'll capture the meeting notes for you and you can expand on it. You can copy it and send it to other people. And you can also look at follow-up tasks and things like that that's created here. So this is Teams Premium, not Copilot. I want to call that out. If I want to look at Copilot, I can go over here, for example, and Copilot will pop up on the right-hand side of the screen for me. Now I can do simple things over here. I can say, let's list all the attendees. And now you'll notice I made a mistake in spelling attendees, but Copilot will automatically fix that up for me when it sends the prompt off to the LLM, along with the transcript as well, to make sure that it can get all the data back. And you'll see it's returned back to me saying, hey, Amy was there. She introduced herself as the integrated marketing lead for Project Falcon and event production lead as well. So you can see this is from the introductions that were made. This is not looking at Active Directory or any other source to pull this information. It is actually the intros in the transcript at the start of the meeting that each one did. I'm not going to do, you can do some of the things that Teams Premium can do over here. You can't do things like getting a view of all the speakers at what time they presented and jump to specific sections when they presented. But one thing I like about Copilot is I can ask Copilot to give me a sentiment of a meeting, right? I'm asking an AI engine to give me whether this meeting was a positive meeting, a negative meeting, or whether there was friction in the meeting. So let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to hit that off. And again, Copilot's going to look at the transcription of the meeting, and it's going to come back and give me a sense of whether what was the sentiment of this meeting. So it'll take a few seconds and you can see it's come back again over here for me. And it says mostly positive with some challenges and disagreements. And then it tells me why it's made those assumptions as well, or why it's thought it was that kind of a meeting. And you'll notice I've got little links over here to different parts of the meetings as to why it made those. And I can jump to the transcript in that section or to the recording in that section and replay the meeting if I want to, right? So that's Copilot in a meeting context. I could, if I've gone on leave and come back and there's a chat going on, a long chat over a week, I can come back and tell it summarize this chat for me. I can do a lot of things with it. I'm going to only scratch the surface in the demos today. I could probably spend an hour just going through demos within Teams, what Copilot can do for you. But this was a quick snapshot for you. So let me jump into Word and give you an example of Copilot in Word. So again, I've taken a really old Microsoft climate change document out of the UK that I found, which I thought would be non-controversial for a demo. So again, I've got my trusty Copilot icon over here, which I can click on, and you see Copilot pops up for me. And someone send me this document and says, hey, Mario, can you review this document? So I can get Copilot to quickly summarize the document so that I can understand what the document's about to start with. So again, Copilot's going to go away, summarize the document for me. Now, I'm not told Copilot how long the summary should be. So Copilot will make, based on the document, make certain assumptions and come back and give me a summary. Or I could be very specific and say, Copilot, give me a 2-page summary of this document. And Copilot would do that for me as well. But you can see it's come back and given me a quick summary of what the document is. Oh, that's great. This would have taken me probably, let's say I'm a slow reader, so probably about 20 to 30 minutes to read this document. But I think the value comes in the next piece of the demo I want to do. Now, the person who sent me the document says, can you review the document and provide feedback? So I can go over here and say, what can Microsoft do better with this? So I'm telling the AI engine, review the document and give me suggestions on what Microsoft could do better with this climate change plan. And again, Copilot's going to go look at the document and say, okay, and it'll look at great examples of other climate change plans that it's been trained on. And it'll come back and give me some output that says, here's a few things that Microsoft could do better. So you can see it's going off and doing this for me right now. And it comes back, and I'll just pick one point over here. For example, it says expand education and awareness initiatives. And then it gives you some examples of it, right? Now I could cut and paste this and send it off to the author of the document saying, here's some suggestions that I've seen in other climate change plans. Now, I'm not, again, there's an element of this where you have to review it. You as the author or the reviewer needs to make sure that some of this feedback is accurate. But what this will do is condense the time frame for you to do this massively. Because think of it, if I had to review this 30-page document, take notes of areas where I think improvement could be, look at some really good climate change plans, first of all, find them on the net, look at them, and then collate this and send a response back. Easily a 2-day piece of work for myself. Now, AI has helped me do that quickly. I could spend another couple of hours just reviewing the feedback and looking at this, and it still saved me a massive amount of time by using AI to do some of this work for me. I can even go down to the extent of in this document. Let me scroll down here. For example, I can pick a piece of text in here. You can see, I don't think it reads correctly for some reason. It just doesn't, I'm not really happy with it. I can click on the Copilot icon and Copilot will rewrite different versions of that particular text that I've highlighted. And you can see over here, it's given me 3 suggestions. I can scroll through the 3 different suggestions and tell it to replace it with the one I like. I've also got the ability to click down over here and say, make the tone of my communication neutral, professional, casual, concise, or even imaginative if you want to. So you can see some really great examples of how Copilot can help you in Word realistically. And talking about the tones of communication, I mentioned that CIO earlier and the benefits that he's seeing. One of the side benefits, which is not linked to productivity, that he's seeing is he's getting Copilot to write his emails for him or to help train him on his emails. And one of the biggest benefits he's seeing is that Copilot is softening his communication style as part of it. Normally he'd be very cut and dry, but Copilot's really helping him kind of be more concise and more approachable in his communication style through this. So you can see there's a lot of benefit here. Again, I'm only scratching the surface in these demos. I'm going to quickly copy the link to this document so that I can use it in the next demonstration. So let's look at Copilot in PowerPoint real quick. Now, the person who sent me that document also said, Mario, can you create a PowerPoint deck from that document, right? We want to present this to our internal stakeholders. So I can come over here again. I've got my trusty Copilot icon that I can hit, and Copilot will pop up and say, hey, what can I help you with? Now, In case on the day one, when your users get Copilot and they got no idea how to write prompts, they can still be productive by saying, hey, Copilot, help me get started. So in this case, I want to create a presentation, and I can say using, and I will put the link to the file in. Oops, I didn't copy the link. Let me do that one more time. End user error. Let's copy that link. Come across into PowerPoint here, and here we go. And I'm going to say Copilot. Basically, I'm targeting PowerPoint to say, look at that one file with Copilot and create a deck for me using that file. Again, I'm not told it how many slides over here in this instance. I could be very specific and say, create a 15-slide deck for me. I'm letting Copilot figure the right number of slides based on the content in that document. And in this instance, and so it's going to come back. It's going to take a little while, as you can appreciate. It's going to look at that document, slice and dice it for the relevant content that it needs to put into the PowerPoint slide deck. And it'll take about 45 seconds. Typically, I've seen it take in the demos I've done previously to kind of give me an output out of this. And so personally, if I had to do this manually, read that document again, create a slide pack from it, easily a 2-day effort from my side of the fence, if not more, right? So you can see Copilot's come back and say, created a deck for me. It's got 11 slides in the deck. And if I scroll through some of these slides, you'll notice that it's got some graphics from this. So this graphic on the right, the graph is from the document itself. It's got some, it's added some own kind of graphics to it. If you've got a corporate template that you want to use for all your PowerPoint slide decks, you can do that once we go GA. That ability to use a corporate standard template will be available as well. So I'm going to scroll. Actually, one thing else that I like with this really useful is that it creates speaker talking notes as well. So it's actually taken the document and looked at the talking points in the document and created speaker talking notes. And it also gives you the original content that it used in that document to create the file. So if you want to review it, it's really quick for you to review it over here as well. Scrolling down at the end, what I want to do over here is really quickly, this document's really old and I want to add some really up-to-date content to this. So what I can do is say, add a slide, on Microsoft's 2030 climate. So now what Copilot's going to do is, because I've told it to add a slide, I've not told it which file to go get that content from. Copilot's going to look at the M365 tenant and all the files I've got permissions to, and it'll create a slide based on Microsoft's 2030 climate ambition plans. Now, Copilot will always work with the security posture of the person that's creating the prompts. It will not give me access to any other data that I don't have access to. Right? It's going to work within the context of what I've got access to. It is also going to, like, let's say, for example, if I created a prompt and it's returned a set of results to me and David created the same prompt, because David's file permissions on the tenant could be very different to mine, the output that came back could be different, right? So I want to call that out as well. So here you go. And I can continue to create prompts and refine this. I could add an FAQ at the end of the document. I could do all those things over here, but easily save me at least 2 days worth of effort by quickly doing all this grunt work for me. My intern has done all that work, as I gave you that example earlier, but Copilot is that intern in this case, and I can review it, finalize it, publish it as an artifact that I've created. Let me, in the interest of time, I know these demos tend to take, and I tend to rattle off for a while. So I'm going to go over here. This is what I call Microsoft Chat earlier. You can see over here, I've asked it previously to summarize my calendar for the day, and it's giving me a whole list of things. And you'll notice there's M365 Copilot plastered across everything on it, because that's what you're spending a large chunk of my time today. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to, let's say, someone's asked me to present on a topic. And let's say it's a Bing Chat Enterprise, which is a capability that we released earlier this year as well. However, I cannot recall. I'd seen a slide deck on this topic. I can't remember if it was in SharePoint, whether someone sent it to me in Teams or where I found that data. And someone's asked me to present in short notice. So what I can do is come here quickly and say, find me a PowerPoint. Actually, let's just say slide deck on. What Copilot's going to do is go across all data that's sitting in the Microsoft tenant that I've got permissions to, and we'll look for a slide deck that has Bing Chat Enterprise content in it. And it'll release to me multiple, I'm hoping it'll come back with 2 or 3 different files. And this is where that context comes in as well, that I gave you that really bad example of Anne in finance publishing the sales figures earlier. It'll actually tell me who the authors of these files are, and what it'll do is return to me files that were published by Mariana, who's our marketing lead for Bing Chat Enterprise, because it knows that files that are published by Mariana are authoritative for this workload. And you can see over here, I can click down and it'll give me the different files. I can open them up and use them quickly. Now, if you had to go trolling through all your data to try and find this manually, it would have taken you a fair amount of time, right? So this is quick examples that I could show you of how Bing Chat Enterprise is going to really drive productivity gain once it's available for you. With that, what I will do is hand back to Thomas, and I think, Dave, if you want to share the slide deck again so that Thomas can continue the session from there.
Thanks, Mario. Sorry, just as that's coming back up. So as a hand over to Thomas, I think just basically, thanks very much, Mario, for that. Some really cool insight. And I think if you think about that content generation capability, for example, and the ability to create content, curate content, improve it and change formats. They're the type of things that have a really significant impact on productivity. And I think also you mentioned a number of times along the way that it's only going to work with data that you have access to. And so as a hand over to Thomas to think about some of the things we can do to be Copilot ready, that data governance and who's got access to what in our organisations becomes a fundamental piece of work that we all need to think about and undertake. So Thomas, over to you.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Look, thanks again. We appreciate everyone for their attendance this morning. And look, thanks, Mario. The demo was pretty amazing. And look, to introduce myself, my name's Tom Clark. I manage the digital workplace team here at NTT. And look, our team's responsible for everything that's modern workplace and collaboration related, particularly covering the Microsoft 365 stack. So look, yes, you absolutely can turn on Copilot, and there's going to be people that want to do that straight away, but there's definitely a few reasons why that's not exactly a good idea. So as we go into the next slide there, so look, it's not just a wizard. So we covered at the beginning, some of the prerequisites, the right licensing, Azure AD, it's best practice to secure your identities, protect and secure sensitive data across the estate. We talked about, in terms of streamlining your endpoint management. Windows 11 is optimized for Copilot, but you can have it on Windows 10. But improving that efficiency around modern management will also help. And of course, as any organization, you need to consume. As Mario explained, that Microsoft services as the data and information is pulled directly from Microsoft Graph. So look, it's just to build upon what David and Mario have already said around some of the use cases of AI. How do we start thinking about the strategy? So when we're talking to our customers, we try to understand how Microsoft 365 can improve recruitment, retention, productivity, security, compliance, and it all looks pretty logical. So we know that it covers these 3 parts here. What are the outcomes that the company is trying to achieve in terms of a business sense? What are the business objectives? Everyone wants to save money. Everyone wants more productivity, and absolutely, I think security is on everybody's mind. So look, secondly, implementing any sort of emerging technology, how does that actually help your customers? As we've said, new ways of engaging. You've got speedier response times. We're ensuring that information is secure. Using automation and AI to streamline the support of customers and automate common tasks. Frees up people to focus on more sort of strategic objectives. So look, thirdly, and emphasising employee experience is something that we can't overlook. So we absolutely see this as a growing requirement, to retain staff, to attract staff. People want access to cutting edge tools. They want to be engaged. They want to access emerging tech. They want to remain relevant. And because I guess if you're not giving to them, someone else will. So we know, and we've seen it within our customer base, the building an attractive IT proposition for your employees, from the device to the meeting rooms to the way that we access systems and data. It's contributing to low attrition rates. And look, so this diagram really dictates how we view the pieces of the puzzle, the Microsoft stack. So in this instance, we start from the device. And we build out upon those services, and for our team, it's really about understanding what, you, the customer, might already have in place, and, we build out upon these services in the sort of correct way. So for example, what we're seeing, people are, interested in the cloud calling opportunity. They're looking to take advantage of the cost savings that you might get with telephony, whether it be direct routing or operator connect with Microsoft Teams, and Craig in the next segment will go through that as well. So look, this is important because innovation requires investment. So we've said that the road to Copilot is about setting up a zero trust foundation. It's about streamlining endpoint management. It's about driving productivity and collaboration, but it's also about getting your information ready for search. So look, if you're in that position already, that's great. But if you're concerned, remember that Copilot will retrieve information that each user explicitly has access to. So at the file level, you can activate options such as Microsoft Purview, information protection, data classification. You can implement content labeling. There's data loss prevention policies within E5 licensing, and this can help you protect everything that you have within Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, and also within Microsoft Chats as well. So there are tools available already, Microsoft Syntex, that can provide a sort of advanced management capability to attempt to sort of weed out that potential oversharing. So the mantra is that we're putting forth is give your users just enough access, give them just enough access to mitigate any risks that you have. So inevitably, what the conversations are leading to is expansion. Meeting rooms and spaces. It leads to contact conversations as we move up the stack. It leads to workloads in Azure. You've got your E5 licensing. How do I activate more of those services? And then when I've got those elements, how do I move up the stack again? Up to digital and automation, for example, to refine the business. So the great thing about NTT, we've got that capability full stack. We cover every little block there. And look, I might hand over to Craig, to talk through how funding that innovation and cost out, by leveraging what you have within your current licensing SKU. Craig.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, so I'm just going to quickly run you guys through business case and ROI and what we kind of see through clients that we're dealing with at the moment, right? So you guys already have a huge investment in your licensing at the moment. And so you've actually got massive unrealized benefits that are sitting there in that licensing structure that you've got, right? So we see many areas where clients have actually leveraged that licensing to reduce cost. And the first one that we often see is voice, right? So clients think, well, I've got this old PBX there. I've had it for years and years and years. I'm still paying support and maintenance. I'm paying for upgrades for licensing and hardware every couple of years. And hey, under E5, I've actually got licensing for that, right? Or even under E3, I've got some licensing for that, right? So how can I actually leverage that license, right? And why are we kind of double paying for a phone system when we've already got one under our Microsoft licensing, right? And often the next thing that we see clients looking at straight after that is, let's look at the cloud calling aspects and what savings we might have available, across that, right? So replacing the traditional carrier that you might have gone to with a cloud-based carrier like NTT. So how this kind of works is back in the pre-COVID days, because we've always been able to get telephone numbers in and out of Teams, right? But just before COVID hit, Microsoft realized that the old way of kind of connecting telephone lines in and out of Teams wasn't necessarily the best, right? So they went out and worked with 3 or 4 kind of carriers globally to design a new architecture. And NTT was one of those carriers that they worked with, right? And what we came up with was an architecture called Operator Connect, right? Which is actually not hugely different from what we used to have before, right? It's very different from an architecture point of view, but from an end user point of view and then from your end users, it's still just the ability to be able to make calls in and out of Operator Connect, right? And NTT offers this service globally for our clients. Now, how it's different from everything that came before us, well, if you think about traditional carriage where the carrier went out and they would drag a line into your building, and you first of all you call them up and you'd say, hey, can I have some new numbers in Parramatta, please, because I'm opening a new office, right? And the carrier would say, sure, I can get those to you. Well, we'll see you in 45 days, right? This is a very different thing, right? So in Operator Connect, all of the carriers, including NTT, we pre-deploy our architecture directly on the same Microsoft global backbone that Teams is operating on, right? So what that means for clients like yourselves is that when you come to NTT and you say, hey, I'm opening up a new office in Parramatta, we can just say, sure, how many numbers do you want? Oh, you want 30 numbers, or you want 100 numbers, or 1,000? And we can typically deploy those numbers to your tenancy, normally in an hour or so, right? But because we're a global carrier, if you come to NTT and you say, hey, I'm opening up a new office in Parramatta, but I also need numbers in the US, London, and Singapore, then yeah, we can have new numbers available to you in those sites as well, typically within an hour, right? So it's really a kind of click, next, okay kind of process through the Teams app portal to get that done, right? Now, some of you are probably thinking, well, that's great, Craig, but I've actually got existing numbers that I want to retain, right? And so porting is an option for this as well. And it's very similar to the process that you would go through if you went to your local mobile phone provider, right? And you wanted to move from, say, Telstra to Vodafone, right? You go into the Vodafone store, you give them your ID, you give them your account number and your phone number, and they validate that, and then once it's valid, they'll move your number across to Vodafone, right? A very similar process happens for business telephone numbers as well, right? So NTT can certainly help you out with that as well. So what I wanted to show you guys here, and what we've actually got up on the screen, is a business case and an ROI actually, that we did for a client here in Queensland. This was actually a Queensland government customer, this particular one. And we looked at basically what their current costs were with their existing carrier, and how much they could save by moving to NTT and Operator Connect, right? And in this particular case, this particular client, you can see there that they save, a bit over 50% every year. And even in the first year where they had, the install costs and all that sort of stuff to amortize, they still saved 25% in the first year. And overall in 5 years, it was 49% and just under $500,000, right? And this is just purely in the calling costs, right? This doesn't include savings that they got through retirement of their old PBXs and removal of, gateways that are on premise and licensing and maintenance costs and all those sort of things that are in addition to this, right? And this is really typical of what we see for most clients. So if you're thinking, well, how much does this really mean for me? Like, what does it mean for my business? Usually what I'll tell clients is if you take your phone bill that you get today from your traditional carrier and you halve it, well, that's the kind of savings that you're going to get through using Operator Connect and NTT, right? And that's what we see from most clients. Most clients, it's between kind of 50 and 60%. Some clients, it's a lot higher, but generally you're going to see around about 50% savings, right? And the beauty is now you can use that saving to go and pay for other things that are innovative for your business, right? And one of those things might be to pay for Copilot, right? Listening to Mario, it kind of occurred to me that this real shift in productivity that we're in the middle of at the moment is kind of like saying to someone, "Hey, James, I'm going to give you a PA, right? And you're still going to do your work, James, but the PA is now going to do all of the grunt work for you, right?" That's really the sort of productivity gains that we're expecting to see through leveraging Copilot, right? And it's not that it's necessarily going to replace everybody, but it's like having that PA sitting next to you, taking all of that work away from you, right? And that doesn't even include the gains that you guys are probably looking at through leveraging data in your business that you have already, but you can't leverage today, right? Or not without significant effort anyway. And most of this, as we've seen, can usually be by simply the voice savings and leveraging your E5 licensing that you already have. So that's about it for me. I'm going to hand over to David Hanahan. I'll be around for questions.
Thanks, Craig. So, I think the key to the cost out piece and the reason for bringing that in is we've looked for the biggest areas of cost saving that we typically see that can leverage that E3 and E5 license that you need. That is a prerequisite for M365. And there's a number of others of those. And as we run into Q&A, please feel free to pop your questions into the Q&A or to raise your hand and we'll grab your questions. We've still got 5 minutes for questions. And as we step into that Q&A, perhaps just thinking through a couple of the other areas of E5 leverage that we can do. If I can take back control. Is that across that whole E5 stack, there's a lot of functionality, and effectively what we try and do is to map what's available in the Microsoft stack. What is the technology and products that you currently use to deliver those functions today, and then drill down into the specific areas where there's potential cost savings, such as endpoint protection, and say, today I have 3 or 5 products. What if I was able to drive just down to Defender and not renew one of the existing ones? What's the type of saving? And this is the type of work that we're doing for clients, both at the E3, E5 licensing, but also at the level of Copilot. Coming back to look at if I introduced Copilot for a particular set of users and we were able to streamline productivity with a particular set of queries. Some of the functions that Mario showed today, for example, the summarization, minute-taking actions out of Teams, while if I hand it out to everybody, it's probably nice, but the savings that come with that may not be that significant if people are using that's the only function and they're only using it periodically. But if I rolled that function out to our enterprise, to our executive assistant community or our bid managers who spend all day in meetings summarizing what happened, taking action, sending them out, can be a really significant saving. So effectively what we've wanted to do today was really show you the capabilities and functionality that comes in Copilot, map that back to how it can improve your employee experience and overall modern work strategy, and then look at some ways that we can get started through completing that migration to the cloud, building out the zero trust management and endpoint management functionality that's absolutely key, whether we're using AI or not, in order to set you up to be in a position to drive that productivity and collaboration that we all want to see. So from there, what we'll do is open up to Q&A. Do we have anything sitting in there that I haven't picked up in the questions? Or if you'd like to raise your hands if you've got any questions for any of the presenters. I did have a question, Mario. Yep.
David, there was a question from Doug that I've responded to, but I'm not sure if everyone else sees the response as well. Doug just wanted to get an understanding of when each of the capabilities demonstrated today would be available. And just for so everything that I've demonstrated today, as you could see, I used a live system. It wasn't recorded in any shape or form. It'd be a lot better demo if it was recorded by someone professional. So that's all going to be available when we go GA on the 1st of November. And general availability, GA stands for general availability. Apologize, I tend to use acronyms a fair bit. So that'll all be available from 1st of November. The only other comment I'll make is that Teams Premium that I spoke about, which was the intelligent meeting recap capability, has been available for a few months now. So if you want that capability, have a chat with your account execs or NTT to get the licensing sorted out, and you can make that available for your team today if you choose to.
Yeah, and for this, there are some questions there on the costs of Copilot and Teams Premium. For Teams Premium, I'm happy to have the licensing team reach out and understand it varies by the client's licensing model. So I'm happy to do that on a case-by-case basis. I think the interesting thing for me about Teams Premium is that between some of the function that you showed that's just built into Teams alone is a great place to start, but also some of the security functionality that Teams Premium brings that we didn't see, also justified for many organizations in its own right. Being able to protect your data, being able to prevent screenshotting of content, those types of things, we're finding that that's really resonating. And on the Copilot side, when it comes to some of the content generation, for example, it is important to understand the outcomes that you're trying to achieve. So the content generation that Mario did, if I thought of that in terms of responding to an RFP, I could use that content generation in Word to look at all of the last RFP responses I did around Operator Connect, for example, and build a case to a client that, and then put that into a presentation to present to them, for example. So following that flow, it would use the information from the RFPs that I've written or have had access to before. If I'm going to use that to respond to a market RFP that's going to become a contract, I may not want to be able to go and just generally get that from information that I've received. And so at NTT, we've been building some AI functionality specifically for bid management that only grabs curated answers that we can tell are up to date. Because if it's going to go on and become part of a contract, we need to not just have a Copilot assistant that fills that in, but we need a validated answer that we know that can safely go into the market and become part of a contract. So understanding the different types of workflows that you're trying to address, helping you map those out, build the functionality, they're all areas that we're able to help you with. We are just over time, so I'd like to firstly thank our presenters today, and particularly Mario for taking the time to take us through the Copilot demonstration. I think we'll all agree there's some really fundamentally cool technology for us to play with once again. And so I think it'll be exciting for everybody to get their hands on this technology and see what it can do. We will make the recording available after the session, and if there's any questions that we've missed, given that we're over time, I'll respond to those individually. So once again, thank you for making the time. It's great to see you all here, and we look forward to seeing you at our next event. Thank you.